Welcome to Dr Joe Unplugged. The topics discussed in this podcast will reflect my opinions and are not in any way to be regarded as medical advice. Cigarette taxes and regulations fuel a thriving black market. Tell me something that I don't know. This has been established for quite some time, and I'm going to quote from reason.com, and we'll put the link in the description below. If you want to create a black market in a perfectly legal product, just make regulations and taxes so onerous that many people prefer to buy from illegal vendors to escape being hassled and mugged by the powers that be. Now, this comes from America, where taxes are not as severe as they are in Australia. But really interesting data, and this is from a study that was published by the tax foundations. Obviously, they're interested in taxation rates. New York, and there are differences in states in America because of different taxation levels in different states. In Australia, it's standardised because it's from a federal tax. New York had the highest inbound smuggling activity, with an estimated 54.3% of cigarettes consumed in the state deriving from smuggled sources in 2022. That's over half. California, 46.7%, New Mexico, 41.2%. I won't read them all out. Wyoming had the highest level of net outbound smuggling at 49.2%. And this suggests that cigarettes are cheaper in Wyoming than they are perhaps in New York or California. States that have experienced net inbound smuggling since 2007 have foregone revenues totalling more than $79 billion in that period. Now, there's data from Australia that suggests that revenue from tobacco excise is going to have fallen by half from around about 2012-13 to 23-24, and that's from around about 15-16 billion to about 8 billion for exactly the same reasons. There is a degree of diminishing returns. The concept of sin taxes is basically penalising people for undertaking activities that are not morally approved of. Now, nobody should be smoking, and most people who do smoke would like to quit if they could. And we know that smoking rates have gone down over the years. But some people just aren't able to quit. So there is an argument for putting taxation on products, particularly where there may be an expense to the rest of the community through health or other services later. But there's a point at which it becomes counterproductive. And clearly, in some of these states in America and certainly in Australia, that point has long been passed. Higher tax rates incentivise smuggling. Adam Hoffer and Jacob Makumba-Rosen wrote in this article that we'll put in the description. As tax rates increase, consumers and suppliers search for ways around these costs. In cigarette markets, consumers tend to shop access across borders where tax rates are lower. So this is in the United States, and we've seen the movement there. And black and grey markets develop to sell illegally to consumers paying little or no tax at all. And the number of cigarettes in Australia that are consumed from the black market clearly is substantial and growing. And whilst the government might pat itself on the back for having raised the tax rates, the tax take has fallen quite precipitously. It's staggering. And, of course, this all gets cheered by big public health. Yeah, they put the tax rates up. That's fantastic. Well, doesn't influence people other than they go to the black market, and not only does it not make more money for taxation revenue, it actually makes less. Sad to say, I think some people will just never learn. And part of the reason, in my opinion, is they never learn is they never talk to people outside their bubble. So, the department talks to the minister, talks to academics, talks to big public health, and guess what? They all agree with one another. There are a number of stop smoking methods. There are prescription medications, there are patches, there are gums, there are sprays. People do hypnosis, and the concept of cold turkey, which is just essentially throwing away the packet, does work for some people. In fact, statistically, it is over time, when one looks at the number of people who smoked in the 60s and 70s, long before a lot of current stop smoking methods came into being, people just stopped smoking. Not everybody can. I really want to emphasise that. Not everybody can, but a lot of people did and still do. And we know, and you probably, those who've listened to this podcast before will know where I'm going with this shortly about vaping. But before that, novel smoking cessation drug clears last hurdle before FDA. Confirmatory phase 3 trial shows tobacco abstinence rates on par with other cessation methods. Now, one of the reasons medications have trade names is because the generic names are often impossible to pronounce. Cytisinicline, or silicline, increased biochemically confirmed abstinence nearly threefold versus placebo when taken for 6 weeks and fourfold when taken at 12 weeks. It was well tolerated. It's likely to support filing with the FDA for a new drug indication as a tobacco cessation aid. Well tolerated is fine. That's good. People don't tend to want to take medications if there's nasty side effects. These results broadly consistent with the effect sizes of other FDA-approved medications. So that's fine. It's another option, because we know that nothing that is currently available works equally well for all people. But it's no better. It's just another. This is just what you love. This is a terrific advance and will improve public health. Yeah, I don't think so. It'll give some people another option, sure. No new tobacco cessation medication has reached the US since varenicline in 2006, which is nearly 20 years. Now, that medication carries a black box warning because of increased rates of suicide. This new one, just looking at its generic name, suggests that it is a related compound. Not the same, but a related compound. So is it nice to have another option? Yeah, it's fine. It's good. But it's going to be another patented pharmaceutical, which means that there's going to be a fair bit of money in it. Vaping has been shown to be the world's most popular and effective stop smoking method. It's not patented. So there's no pharmaceutical money behind it. And in Australia, as we know, it has been demonised by big public health, and the laws in Australia have made it very, very difficult for people to use the world's most popular and effective stop smoking method. But you can be pretty sure that when this new medication comes around, it will be fast-tracked approved. Now, I could stand corrected, and again, I don't know how you define fast-tracked, but you can be pretty certain that it will make its way onto the market not long after the FDA approves it. And there's some possibility that not only will it be licensed, but it will also get a government subsidy. And all new medications are expensive. And, to be fair, people have to recoup their costs, but they are expensive. Vaping is not expensive. And smokers tend to prefer it for a number of reasons. And that's why, I'm repeating myself, but I think it's important, it is the most popular method. And it's also the most effective, because there's one thing that vaping does that none of these other methods do, and that is recreating the hand-mouth movement that people like. Now, some people chew their pens, some people chew their nails, some people have worry beads. A lot of people like hand-mouth movement. Maybe it goes back to when we were babies and people sucked their thumbs. I don't know. I don't know if that's been looked at. But hand-mouth movement is a thing with human beings. Not everybody, but with a lot. And that's one of the other benefits and advantages of vaping. So as I've observed before on this podcast, but it is worth repeating, Australia's approach to helping people stop smoking is a total and abject failure. It remains far easier to purchase cigarettes. And if you do it legally, you can go to a supermarket or a convenience store or a petrol station. Yeah, you've got to ask for it. It's not on display, but you can still get them without a prescription, without needing to see a doctor. You want the world's most effective and popular stop-quitting method, then in some states you need to go to a chemist. In others, you still need to go to a doctor and get a prescription and then go to the chemist. Which is easier? And by the way, most people are just making their own arrangements. They continue to get vapes through the black market, which is unfortunate because there's no quality control. And surprise, surprise, people are getting their cigarettes through the black market. And it could be, and I don't think anybody studied this, and my suspicion is they haven't studied it because they do not want to know. It could well be that 50% or more of cigarettes in Australia are now coming from the black market. And again, there's a number of issues with that. It does reduce revenue, again, rightly or wrongly, but there's always going to be quality issues with the black market. But ultimately, if it's easier and cheaper to get black market cigarettes than to take steps to quit smoking, again, you can sort of see where some of the incentives are. And this is not just unique to Australia and the United States. In all jurisdictions where taxes and regulations get onerous, but there remains demand for product, the market will supply it and a black market will emerge. And that's what we see. And credit to the people in the US who did the study on this and showed the effects. I'd be really, really keen to see a similar study done in Australia. I'm not holding my breath. As usual, the solution, if the powers that be wanted to take it, is fairly simple. New Zealand has got it right. Vaping is a consumer product. It's not advertised. It's not sold to people under 18. But it's no more difficult to buy the at least 95% less harmful alternative than it is to buy cigarettes. It's all that's needed. People in New Zealand, they don't need to go to a doctor. They don't need to go to the chemist. They can just go and buy their vapes and get themselves off cigarettes. If we're serious about helping people get off cigarettes in Australia, that's what we need to do. That we're not, well, you can form your own conclusions. Thanks for listening to Dr. Joe Unplugged. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, share, and consider subscribing. Tell your friends. If there are topics you'd like to see covered, be in touch through the chat or email info@drjoe.net.au. We'll be uploading new content each Monday, and soon we'll be putting these videos out on X. You can follow me there at Dr. Joe's DIY Health.